game begin.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
I am your father.
You like Huey Lewis on the news?
Yes. And you're not sure about this, are you?
You're gonna die, clown!
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sam?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss. Call it.
Whose motorcycle is this?
It's a chopper, baby.
Whose chopper is this?
Zed's.
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby.
Bring out today!
This is a tasty burger.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome to the fucking show.
Hello! Welcome back to See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I'm Russell.
And I'm Ben.
And I'm sorry about last week, or this previous week, if you didn't see an episode. We had some technical difficulties uploading it, and yeah, we also just had technical difficulties, very similar ones, about 8 seconds ago recording. This was our third try recording this episode, or this intro. Jesus H. Christ. That was not okay. If anyone knows what's wrong with my computer and how to fix it, email us. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's the only descriptor I'll tell you, because I'm sure someone out there is going to be like, bro, you just did this the wrong way or didn't do this interface thing right. Okay, I get it. But yeah, Ben, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I just started my Maymester up after a week off of classes, which was very welcome and very nice. Doing a political analysis class, which is kind of like a political analysis by way of statistical analysis class. So a lot of number crunching, along with the typical talking about politics. So far the first 2 days, it's been enjoyable. I like it.
Yeah. Not that anyone who's listening cares about this, unless someone listening or people listening are from Purdue. Do you have Professor Velasi for the class?
I do not.
He's really cool. I was just wondering. He's super, 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 super cool. If you ever take a politics class with him, he's wild. Like, he might be like one of the coolest and most crazy people ever. And I used to train him at the gym at Purdue. Yeah, really nice guy. But yeah, that's good that it is going well. Maymester is really, really horrible. You've done it before, haven't you?
Yes, I had it last year, History of World War II class, which I loved. It was probably one of my favorite classes at Purdue.
Yeah.
But that was a lot to do with the professor as well. And just it's an interesting subject. But the professor, his enthusiasm about the history of World War II was definitely contagious. So I really enjoyed that class. Oh,
I'm sure. Like a history class like that would be really contagious and would get you super into it, and just like for a very long period of time, because this isn't just like a talk about Purdue thing, but no, I've had classes like that have gotten me like legitimately into certain things in life because of a class, or because like the passion a professor brought towards something. So yeah, but I'm glad it's going well, and I'm glad you had a nice week off. And Maymester isn't that bad because it's only Monday through Thursday, right?
It's full 5 days a week.
Oh, yours is 5? When I took mine, it was 4 days.
Ooh, lucky.
Yeah. I think it might just depend on the class and like what everything is. But yeah, we had, I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks of 4 days every day, but our classes were like 4 hours long.
Oy.
That was like the trade-off.
Mine's only 2 hours.
Yeah, I think ours is 3.5. It was like a power, you know how like a power hour is like that? I think it was like 3.5 hours, 4 times a week. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess you get that trade-off. But yeah, good on you. Ben, you had some John Wick news that you were telling me off the air that makes me even more excited for John Wick than I was previously.
Yes, really not much of news, more just like how it's holding up as far as critical reviews are going. Currently on Rotten Tomatoes, it's sitting at 95% approval, or fresh, or whatever they want to call it, out of 56 reviews counted. And the consensus quote John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum reloads for another hard-hitting round of the brilliantly choreographed, over-the-top action that fans of the franchise demand.
Yeah.
So, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I am so stoked. I love the first two. I think those two films are such sleeper hits of films, because I think those came out and people were like, what the hell is this? And people were like, whoa, this is really good. And then the second one, I think a lot of people, including myself, were like, okay, that was a fluke. And then it came out and you're like, oh my god. The second one, in a lot of ways, is better than the first one.
Oh yeah, I would say in every way.
Yeah.
The first one, it was basically the start of Keanu's third phase of his career. Like his first one, we had his early stuff like, I would say maybe his third comeback, because our first look at Keanu Reeves was like Bill and Ted. Kind of his persona of like the goofy, like slacker.
Yeah.
Then he came back as an action star with Point Break and Speed in the late 80s and early 90s. Kind of dipped off for a little bit. His second comeback, obviously, one of his biggest franchises ever was The Matrix.
Yeah.
And then after that, he kind of dipped off again. Did some kind of not so stellar movies. Didn't do a whole lot of action, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then finally, he's getting up in his late 40s. I think he's like 50 years old this year.
Mm-hmm.
Did John Wick a few years back, and it came out of nowhere. I don't think a lot of people put a bunch of weight behind how good the movie was going to be.
Yeah.
Because, you had an relatively unknown director from it. Being like the stunt choreographer, or he was either the choreographer or the stunt man for Keanu Reeves in the Matrix films.
Yeah, I think you are right. I think he was the choreographer.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's actually like super awesome that you get someone that knows how to set up a proper fight scene and action sequences. Who'd have thunk, like someone that has experience with that stuff could make a phenomenal action movie series.
Yeah, exactly. Especially someone who loves movies, and you can tell that movie is made by someone who loves movies. And they're like, I just want to take all the cool stuff I love from movies and action that a lot of people love and do it the right way the first time.
Right.
And just do all of it 100% balls to the wall, just like the most visceral action, and I love it so much. I can't talk enough about John Wick. I've met a lot of people who haven't seen it. I'm like, just go watch them. Like, I can't tell you anything about it. Just get ready for sweet action. It's super rated R, so be ready for that one. But it's bonkers. It'll make you think like, wait, are they actually killing people on set? It's like that real and visceral, and you're like, like there's stunt fighting, and that one looks like they're actually legitimately kicking the shit out of each other. Like you can feel it.
It's the antithesis of quick, choppy editing movies like Taken,
yes,
or the Bourne franchise.
Yes,
there's movies in those series that have their merit, or there's parts of those movies that have their merits, but they don't even hold a candle to like. An action movie like John Wick or Part 2. Yeah,
and I think two movies that come to mind when I think of John Wick in my head, the first one that I really think of is is it Casino Royale? I think it's in Casino Royale, the bathroom fight scene with Daniel Craig in black and white, where you're just like,
yes,
he is literally killing a man with his bare hands, and you're just like, you want to look away, but you can't. That scene, and then in Mission Impossible, the most recent one with Henry Cavill, that one, there's the bathroom fight scene in there, and then there's another fight scene in that movie where it's like, you feel the weight of each punch, and you like, nothing feels like stunty in acting. It feels like, oh man, that's gonna hurt, and like you get up and you're like, you have bruises. Or the TV show Daredevil, where like, after a fight, you see him like bandaging himself up or giving himself stitches because if anyone's ever been punched before, one, it hurts when you punch something, and two, it hurts when you get punched. So like when a movie actually factors that in, it's awesome.
Yeah. These are the best examples of like Hollywood filmmaking where action is just, it's balls to the wall. It like you said, there's heft behind each blow, punch, kick, and all that. it's been like a long time since we've had good Hollywood films like that, and it's awesome to see.
Yes,
that we're getting the John Wick franchise. We're getting the last 3 or 4 Mission Impossibles that have been just incredible movies.
Yes,
and showing that Tom Cruise, this dude's gonna keep going until he fucking gets snapped in half by a stunt or something like that.
Yeah, he's gonna just do that thing that the Red Bull guy did, jump from like the outer atmosphere for like 9 minutes and fall. That's what Tom Cruise is gonna do in his next movie. He's like, I want you guys to strap me to a jet or some like ridiculous shit, because he's like, I want you to put me on the outside of a submarine and take it all the way down. And they're like, you're gonna die. He's like, no, I won't. I'm Tom Cruise. That's how Tom Cruise is gonna go out. But more power to him, because those movies and everything he does, it's next level.
Yeah. And the closest thing you can get, or I guess like the next best, or actually kind of better maybe, depending on how or what your view of it is. You look to foreign films, like you have your classic like Hong Kong action films, but I'd say the most recent comparison to like the John Wick franchise, as far as foreign films goes, is a Indonesian franchise called The Raid.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna
incredibly fucking good movies.
The Raid 2. There's a scene in a apartment complex that is very notorious on YouTube. There's a scene from The Raid 2 that is so visceral and so like, it makes your skin crawl how real it is. You're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's like that. And I think it gives people a little bit of the same feeling when they first saw the movie Saw, where you're like, it's that kind of action where you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, The Raid 2 has my all-time favorite car chase sequence ever. It's so fucking good.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's incredible. And yeah, I can't... We should do that. We should talk about those movies. And there's a movie I want to talk about on this podcast. I don't know if you've ever seen it, and if you haven't, we're definitely doing an episode once Game of Thrones is over. It's called Kung Fu Hustle.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. I think
we'll do it anyway.
Okay, I think
it's been a few years since I've seen it.
Same. I think we should do a like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of thing. Do those movies and Kung Fu Hustle in the same review. Just like watch 2 legit ones and then Kung Fu Hustle, and actually talk about what it gets right and what it does to parody that genre. Because it's like a parody, but also it is that genre as well. It's kind of like Spaceballs.
Yeah, and those are the best kind of parodies. When, it's not just, dropping mostly like shitty jokes on, just like the latter half of the scary movie franchises.
Yeah.
Or any of the, disaster movie or heroic movie, whatever those awful atrocities of movies are. Like, when you go back to parodies or send-ups like Spaceballs or Airplane. Yeah. Those are so good because they understand the genre that they're trying to send up. And you can actually put those movies within those genres, like easily.
Exactly. You really can. And I think that, or like Blazing Saddles, those are all Mel Brooks movies. But you do look at them and you see like, this person loves this genre enough to understand it and break it apart for like what it's worth, but in a good way. And it's like making fun of like the positives of it and like leaving it intact.
Yeah, knowing and loving the thing that you're making fun of while still being able to make fun of it because you see some of the ridiculousness of it. Oh, yeah.
100%. And I think we should definitely... I think that might be interesting, just do a parody episode.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the best like parody films. And yeah, there's some really good parody out there. Like,
there's good ones. Really. There's good ones that don't get enough attention.
Oh, 100%. I could think of it like probably 5 off the top of my head that are like, why don't people watch these more?
Right.
But yeah, also, there's like 2 other pieces of news. This one comes from the Robbie Fox, or that Robbie Fox. He's a blogger. Idris Elba might be playing Deathstroke in Suicide Squad 2.
Wow, interesting.
There's that piece of news. And then apparently there's a trailer for the Maleficent Mistress of Evil movie that's out. I haven't watched it, but that apparently is a thing. And the next Star Wars trilogy that takes place from 2022 to 2026 will be spearheaded by D.B. Weiss and David Benioff, the two guys who are the showrunners for Game of Thrones. And I guess that means Rian Johnson's out? Because I thought Rian Johnson was going to be helming that, unless there's another one that Rian Johnson's doing.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I thought he was involved in some sort of film, maybe one of the like offshoots, like like a solo or one, something like that.
Because I'd want to see more from him as well, because I loved The Last Jedi. Big Last Jedi fan, so I would like to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Only other news thing I could think of is Disney continues to take over the world as, or will be acquiring the remainder of Hulu, the streaming service.
I heard about that.
Yeah, because of Comcast, or I want to say they're buying out Comcast's portion of it.
Yeah,
and NBC Universal is pulling out because they're starting their own streaming service.
Yeah, I had heard that because Disney apparently already owned like 36% of their stuff. I didn't even know that.
Right, I think it was broken down by NBC Universal owned 30%, Fox owned 30%. Then they were purchased by Disney. Disney owned 30%, and then AT&T Warner Brothers, or Warner Media, whatever they're called, they owned the remainder 10%.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So, okay.
So they're going to have Disney Plus and Hulu as their streaming services. I think Bob Iger hinted at Disney Plus is going to be more of their like on-brand Disney stuff, like that goes with the name Disney, that the family stuff. Nothing much more than PG-13. Hulu they're going to reserve for what Hulu has right now, I think, and also for like R-rated, more adult and mature fare.
Which would make sense. I can see why they're doing that. Not that I agree with everything Disney is doing. I do understand it from a business aspect, like why they'd want that separation, especially like if you have like little kids who are like, oh, I want to go on Disney Plus. You don't want them to accidentally click on The Raid 2. That's the thing. So there's a separate thing for that.
If I walked into my living room, my son was watching The Raid or The Raid 2, I'd be like, you get it, dude. Like, I'm going to sit down, let's pop some popcorn, we're watching this together.
Yeah, that's how my parents were. There's like some movies I watched when I was really young, and I was like, they freaked me out a little bit, but then I'm like, this is the reason I'm this way now. So thanks, Mom and Dad. But yeah, I think those are all the big pieces of news. There's a lot of hype coming in behind It Chapter 2. Apparently there's a few scenes that were cut from the first one that'll be in the second one, one of which is Pennywise and some baby in the 1600s that was too gruesome for the first movie, and then a few other things. And I don't know if they're going to do the interdimensional stuff with the big turtle. They might.
They may. I probably would say maybe not.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't much hinted at like that much craziness in the first chapter. So they might try and keep it more, keep it a little bit more simpler than going into like that much detail.
You know what? You probably have a point on that. And also, I think this isn't really a piece of news. Well, kind of, because we're going to talk about HBO here for a bit. Veep ended. It's over. I've only seen the first 2 seasons of Veep. I haven't seen the rest. My dad was watching the finale this week. Apparently, he really loved it.
It was a phenomenal finale. It was really
good.
Good.
He was talking about that he really loved it, so I have to get caught up on Veep. So I'm staying off of that part of the internet so I don't get, corrupted, and I don't get Game of Thrones fan-based by Veep. And Barry is fantastic.
Barry remains the best show on television.
It honestly, it really is. And it's one of those weird things where I have no idea how they keep doing it. Like, every week of Barry, like, one problem eliminates itself and then 2 more rise up. And it's so good. And there's, like, characters you, like, hate, but then you really love, like NoHo Hank. There's certain things he does where you're like, God damn it. And then you're like, you know what? This is an incredible character. Like, whoever, like, wrote that and conceptualized that character is so funny. I think we should talk a little bit about, there's one episode in Barry season 2 that we talked about a little bit last week, but that since the episode doesn't exist anymore, there's an episode that takes place solely between Barry, or between Bill Hader and Stephen Root's character. It's like a hit that goes wrong, and it involves a karate or a taekwondo expert. It might be one of the funniest things I have ever seen, and one of the most unexpected ends to an episode that I've ever seen. I was like, what? It just keeps ramping up, and it's such a left turn from everything else that the show has ever done. And it's one of those things where it's almost compared to the Battle of the Bastards kind of episode where you're like, what is happening? Like, this is like, the creator's like, okay, we have you, like, it's a good, intriguing show. Here's this episode. And then you just go back to normal. You're like, whoa, wait, we're not going to address what just happened. So good. What do you think about that episode? Because I don't want to do any spoilers until we talk about Barry.
It was phenomenal. Yeah, it's definitely the offshoot style, or it's like a different, like it's different plot wise. Yeah, it does just take place between Barry and Fuchs. It was actually written and I think and directed by Bill Hader.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely like kind of the wildest episode that Barry has put out yet. But it's amazing, and it's not just like here's a weird episode, let's be funny. It does actually add to the character of Barry and Fuchs.
Yeah, it
like,
really
you
does.
Understand their relationship so much more because of this episode, and yeah, it only adds to how incredible this show is.
Yeah, there's some hilarious wire work in it, not to spoil anything. It's very minimal, but it's really, really funny. But there's nothing strictly comedic about it. It's just really perfect timing. And it shows how talented Stephen Root and Bill Hader really are as actors and how their chemistry is. It's incredible. So I can't talk enough about Barry. But yeah, so Game of Thrones. The Bells. This is episode 5 of season 8, and
the penultimate episode.
It is the penultimate episode, and this is, in my opinion, before we get into it, we're gonna like have like a talk about it, and then we'll go into like spoilers. I personally loved this episode so much, and a lot of people didn't, but other people I have seen online, just because I try not to taint my opinion with the internet, just because the internet is a hive mind of awful sometimes. I thought this episode was incredible. I loved it.
I really liked it. I did look at some of the or I looked at both the praise and the criticism of this episode, like after watching it. Didn't really change my thought about the episode. I thought it was one of the most technically well shot and produced episodes. Oh, yeah. And it was the same director as The Long Night.
Yeah, Miguel Sapochnik.
Miguel Sapochnik. And it was just like incredible. You're thinking like, okay, yeah, The Long Night had its problems with some of its filming and production. This one was like flawlessly shot.
Oh, yeah.
And it was beautifully shot. It showed the absolute gruesomeness of just all-out war.
Yeah.
And siege warfare.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of the storytelling elements of it. I see and understand some of the criticisms that we'll get into here soon, but I also can see the point of the showrunners and writers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of in a neutral stance as far as both sides go, but I still really enjoyed this episode. I think it was the second best episode of the season behind episode 2, right before The Long Night. That was setting up for The Long Night.
Yeah, I do agree, and I just had to look it up as someone who comes from like working with cinematography and is getting a degree in cinematography. The cinematographer for this episode, who works with Miguel Sapochnik, I don't know if he's a full-time cinematographer, but I know he's done every episode with Miguel Sapochnik. His name's Fabian Wagner. Holy shit. This, and then the Battle of the Bastards, just some of the shots that they're able to accomplish are so breathtaking and so horrifying. especially at the very end of the episode with a lot of ash falling, and there's a few shots with Arya in the sunlight, are incredible. And we will definitely talk more about that. But Miguel Sapochnik gets a lot of love, but I think a lot of the visuals we have to credit with the cinematographer Fabian Wagner, who honestly has an incredible eye. And yeah, is very, very talented. Good for you. So, the episode, where does it even start off? Because it just goes like normal and then goes balls to the wall.
We start at Dragon Island.
Dragonstone?
Dragonstone, yeah. I keep calling it Dragon Island.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started Dragonstone. Apparently, Cersei let Dany and the rest of her group that she came face to face with at the end of episode 4. She just kind of let them walk, which is questionable, but I mean, whatever. Let's just take it. Let's just accept it. That's how it is. And we find out that she knows how many, well, not exactly how many people, but she knows that at least Jon's secret lineage that she hoped to keep a secret has now gotten out to a lot more people thanks to Sansa, Tyrion, and Lord Varys.
Yes. Also, I did see a criticism of what you just said about Cersei letting them go. They had already held siege to the Blackwater Bay. That's why she let them go, because they had a huge army at the bottom of the hill.
Ah, okay.
That's why they had that whole encampment, that giant encampment there, because like if you kill them, you're still going to be under siege.
Right. Okay. I did not know that, so that makes more sense.
Yes, that's why. And people said that, and like there was other people on Reddit who were like, dude, there was an encampment there. Like, she's not going to just do that and have an army of thousands of people just sitting there with the other generals who are still there. So it's like you kill, like, 60 people who are standing in front of your gates. You still have an army sitting down there. That's why. But I think, so it starts out with Varys, and Varys has one of his little birds. We finally see a little bird for the first time in, 4 seasons, which I was so happy to see. And there's a thing I was reading. He said, let's try again at dinner. And there's a line from season 1 where Maester, is it Pycelle, is talking to Ned Stark. And he's like, poison is a weapon for women and eunuchs. And then he's like, did you know that Lord Varys is a eunuch? It's in this line. And it was pulled up. Actually, Ozzy Man from Ozzy Man Reviews, I think he's the one who brought that up in his video. And that's why Varys to the little bird is like, okay, run along, let's try at dinner. He's trying to poison her. That's why they say she hasn't eaten anything in days. I think he's trying to kill her.
Makes sense, because he's really the only one that is seeing Dany for who she has become, or well, I guess what she is capable of becoming at that point in the episode.
Yeah.
And he's like, if we don't do something about this, everyone will burn.
Yeah. And the really good line before he does burn is, I really hope I'm wrong about all this.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that line. When he says that, he's like, I really hope I'm wrong. Which you can just see him during the end of the episode just looking down and being like, I was right. And there's that look Tyrion gives where he's like, holy shit, Varys was right. Where he looks at the city and he was like, oh my god, they were right. He was so right. The whole time, Sansa was right, he was right. Everyone who told me that she might lose it was I was being an idiot. I was being too hopefully optimistic about siding. And I really like that. And I do people are like, Daenerys wouldn't go crazy. They were kind of setting this up from the beginning. We were just following 2 different bad guys.
Right. I mean, yeah, she's never shied away from punishing people that have gotten her way. It's always been portrayed as these are for the most part, villains of the episodes or seasons or whatever.
Yeah.
With maybe a small exception for Tarly.
Oh,
his
yeah.
Son. His son kind of just hey, if you're going to burn my dad, you're going to have to burn me too.
Yeah.
That was his choice, really.
Yeah, Dick on Tarly.
Yeah, Dickin.
Yeah. Dick
but
and
other
Tarly.
than that, it's really been setting up her breaking point for a long time. I think the more surprising part was that she snapped and decided that innocent men, women, and children don't mean a damn thing, and she's going to burn them as well.
Yes.
But it's not much of a stretch, I don't think.
Because, her
snapping in the way that she did, like, seeing, in the past few episodes, seeing people kind of cast aside what she feels is her rightful position on the Iron Throne. She feels threatened by almost everyone. She's getting so paranoid.
Yeah.
And she gets rebuffed by John earlier in the episode when I think she's trying to make a power play on him, like saying like, hey, we can still be a couple, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you're my aunt.
Yeah. And
he doesn't say that, but you can see it. He's like, yuck.
Yeah. And I think that might be the thing. That might have been the line where, like, if he was just like, you know what? Let's do this. Maybe that could have saved her. Like, John might have been accidentally the thing that was like, okay, I have nothing to lose. And I mean, when she was in like Marine and like in Yunkai, she crucified people. She like closed the slaving pits. She killed the slave masters. She like did all this stuff. She essentially destroyed their culture because she viewed it as wrong. And then with the Dothraki, when she was in that hut, she burned them all alive and came out like unburned again. And that's when the Dothraki were like, okay, you're going to be our queen now. She didn't do that the nice way. She murdered people. And like, people were like, oh, she's so sweet. I'm like, no. And then like when her dragons were doing stuff, she's like, yeah, dragons eat whatever they want. She burned hundreds of people doing that, during the Lannister, their like shipment thing. When she like burned hundreds.
The cargo train or whatever.
Yeah, the cargo train. She like did that and just like mercilessly killed people. And I think that episode was a setup for this to show that like she'll just unleash hell.
Right. Now, some of the criticisms that like there were some criticism I understand. Mm-hmm. People were saying there were some people that were saying that yeah, we get that she got to this point, but how she did get to it doesn't make sense to them. One of the main things is that people were saying that it was poor writing to have her finally snap because like John kind of like was like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Like as far as relationship wise, and I think some people saw that as like kind of sexist, saying like, oh, it was a man that pushed her over the edge. Like she's becoming this kind of type, this like archetype of like crazy ex-girlfriend or whatever you want to call it. And I can understand that. Not that I necessarily like fully go in with it, but it's just like, okay, yeah, maybe in a certain viewpoint, sure, that can be not satisfying to see it happen this way. And I think another piece of criticism I saw as far as her going crazy on innocent men, women, and children is that way back in like episode or season 3 maybe, when one of her dragons like killed a young like shepherd's like daughter or something. Mm-hmm. Like she chained up 2 of her dragons just solely because one innocent person was killed, and it's like she's been seen before as having compassion and guilt over innocent lives lost. Like why is all of a sudden why is it now that she could give a shit less? But I guess for that one, it's been 4 seasons or however long it's been since that episode, and she's gone through a lot of shit.
Yeah,
and like we discussed just a little bit ago, she's seeing like her claim to the throne crumble around her, and she's become more paranoid. So it is understandable that she's just like, you know what, fuck innocent lives. Like everything's gonna burn, and I'm gonna get my way. Whether it's through everyone's submitting or I'm just going to tear it all down.
Yeah, and you know what? I think there is some justification in all of that, and I think people are like, well, my Daenerys wouldn't do this. But also, that's like the line at the beginning. Whenever a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. Are they going to be cool or not? And like that's like the thing. All villains think they're the good guy. A good villain always thinks they're the good guy. And I think when you have a really intriguing character, it's a shade of gray. And even really great people do horrible things, and really horrible people can do great things. And that's what this show is about. It's showing, like, no one's perfect, and war and power and greed and, like, preconceived ideas can turn you into a monster. And I really like that. And, this episode then continues, just story-wise, away from Daenerys and goes to Tyrion, essentially doing his last strike with Daenerys and freeing Jaime. And essentially confessing that, like, Jaime was the only reason he survived childhood against Cersei and other people bullying him and probably trying to kill him because he was a little person and everything else. And it was actually an incredibly good moment between those two actors that you were like, oh God, they're never going to see each other again. Like, or if they do, it won't be on good terms. Not between them. One of them.
Peter Dinklage and Nikolai Coster-Waldau have incredible chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
And that scene was very, very good, even if I don't necessarily like the course that Jaime's character took.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, like, him just turning on a dime and going back to wanting to protect Cersei after his development and character arc throughout, the whole series. That's something that kind of rubs me the wrong way, but it's not something that's going to ruin my enjoyment of the show.
Yeah. My only thing on that, we're going to get more into that and those deaths, spoiler alert, is Jaime earlier in the show as well, like, hung up Brienne, and then he did that thing where he had sex or raped Cersei on top of their dead child's body. And I think it shows that, like, people do have developments and then they slip back into old ways that's comfortable. And I think that's something that's going to be in the books as well, is that Jaime does do a lot of good things, and then he's like, you know what? I do love Cersei. He's like, I love a hateful woman. I'm a hateful man. And he's like, yeah, I've learned stuff, but that doesn't mean I'm a different person. And I think that, like, a lot of people are frustrated because they wanted him to go out a hero instead of kind of going out like this anti-hero, almost villain. But maybe that's what he wanted. And, like, George R. R. Martin recently in an interview has been answering questions, and he has said that the ending that Dan and Dave are doing is his ending. It's just characters are going to get to those places slightly differently, but it is his ending because it's his story. So I think Jaime's going to go out a very similar way. Maybe not in the exact same circumstances, but I think a lot of those big beats are going to be exactly the same. And he's like, some of the minor characters will have different ends or be at different locations, but the end that is reached will be the same end. And I really like that. And the Jaime ending, I have heard a lot of people being like, what? Jaime wouldn't do that. I'm like, maybe he would. Maybe he's just an asshole. Like, he's just a very compelling asshole. But yeah, so yeah, Jaime does go back to Cersei. But before that, we have... How long do you think that scene is of just preparing and going around the city and seeing people get led into the Red...
Into the Red Keep?
Yeah, into the Red Keep. And that's a really horrifying moment where there's, like, mobs of people getting in. And the Hound and Arya are there, who are, like, both on a mission. Arya's like, I'm going to go kill Cersei. And the Hound's like, I'm going to go kill my brother. And they get let in, but Jaime does not. And you see the panic in the city of, like, oh shit, we're under siege, and the Dragon Queen, the usurper, is coming. Which, at the beginning, when Qyburn says the usurper, you're like, oh, okay, whatever, Qyburn. Then you're like, oh shit, he was right. Cersei was right. And I thought that entire build-up to what happens was very good, especially the standoff between the Golden Company, which I love. People hate that. I love what they did with the Golden Company. That standoff between them and Jon's army, where they're like, when the bells ring, you call it off because they surrender. What did you think about all that? I personally liked it.
I thought it was really good build-up. It was a good build-up in a way that it was... We think that maybe all this panic from people, like, trying to get into the Red Keep isn't necessarily justified. Like, because we're thinking, what do they got to be afraid of? Like, is Dany and her army really going to just annihilate this whole city and kill men, women, and children?
Yeah.
Or are they just kind of being fed propaganda by Cersei and her crew saying, like, oh yeah, usurper this, usurper that. And then all of a sudden it turns out, like you said, oh shit, yeah, she she is fucking everything up. They had every right to panic.
Yeah.
Like, they should have been, like, scared out of their minds because, yeah, they're about to get fucking, incinerated by a dragon.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Cersei was right for the wrong reason, and you can see that look on her eyes. Like, when she sees the dragon coming in and burning all the scorpions along the wall, and she's like, I was right. And people are like, Cersei didn't do anything in that episode. I think she did. She couldn't do anything else. She's, like, kind of...
what was she exactly supposed to do?
Yeah, and she, like, was just standing and, like, watching, and, like, was just, like, listening to Qyburn and kind of the mountain. Just, like, stand there and just, like, yeah, we're SOL. We should probably go hide somewhere because, yeah, we can get out of the city. And Qyburn kind of said the same thing. He's like, we can leave. And she's like, the Red Keep has never fallen. It's never been destroyed. Which is true. It never has been destroyed ever since it was built. But I don't think the Red Keep has ever been attacked by dragons. And that scene where you first see, like, when Drogon comes in and destroys Euron's fleet, I love that scene. Where it's just coming in, you follow the dragon, it's just annihilating everything. The logic behind the fact that none of them can hit the dragon is a little separate, but that's kind of one of those, okay, it's a show.
Right, especially after 3 successive, bolts to Viserion.
Yeah.
Happened in just the previous episode. It's kind of like, okay, where was that, great accuracy this time around? But like you said, it's kind of one of those, okay, whatever.
Yeah, maybe they were unprepared.
Let's not get hung up on this.
Yeah, everyone was out drinking the night before, and they were unprepared. Whatever. And, like, I can buy that one. She came in on a mission. Everyone had no idea. They were all facing the wrong direction, and they, like, just were totally taken by surprise. I can buy that. And then when she goes in and starts burning all the scorpions on the wall, that was a really good shot. That was very Apocalypse Now, where you just see the fire raining down, just everything exploding. And then you get one of the best reaction shots I've ever seen with the Golden Company, and they hear the explosions in the background, and Jon and Tyrion look at each other, and then, like, Harry Strickland looks at them like, dude, what's happening behind us? Because there's a wall. They have no idea what's going on. And then, like, the biggest explosion ever. When that happened...
Yeah. And I think the absolute, like, destruction of the Golden Company in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
I liked that. It was like...
I did too.
What are we supposed to expect? Like, or like maybe some people thought, oh, we're going to get to see, the fabled Golden Company, the people that have never, let a contract, go.
Yeah.
We're going to get to see them fight. Well, when you put them up against a damn dragon, like, no, they're not going to stand a chance.
Yeah, and I love that so much. People are like, they were underutilized. I think they were used for the perfect reason, because they were used to freak everyone out. But then it's like the best, like, warriors in the world. Over. And it just shows, like, oh shit. Like,
yeah, and we got that on the opposite side of our, protagonist, antagonist side. In The Long Night, when we saw, with the Dothraki, like, we're thinking, like, oh yeah, let's see some fucking Dothraki fight. Nope, we didn't get a single shot of them fighting because they went up against the Army of the Dead. They were outmatched, outnumbered.
Yeah.
Their fire was extinguished.
Yeah, instantly. Like, and that was such a incredible shot. And then, like, looking at the behind the scenes, I watched, like, the 30-minute behind the scenes thing that they publish on YouTube and on HBO Go. They did so much work on this episode, like, budget for the explosions and, like, the fire and, like, all of the extras. And I love how in the marketing they're like, yeah, the long night's the big battle, like, and they just kept hyping that up. And Amelia Clark said something. She's like, yeah, the long night's a really big battle, and it's really hard to film, but there's something else happening in this season. And everyone's like, wait, what? And she's like, no, there's just something else that happens. And she's like, yeah, that's not the last episode. And that's when, like, I heard that. I think she was on Colbert or something, or on Jimmy Kimmel. And I was like, oh shit, like, they're using the dragon this season. Because I think that's what everyone has wanted, them to really use the dragon. Like, if you have a dragon, you have to go 100%.
Right. Most people just didn't expect it to be used in such a horrifying way. And that might contribute to a lot of people's, problem with this episode. Maybe they just didn't want to accept that, the dragon that they wanted used was used to murder women, children, and innocent men.
Yeah, and it really, really was. And I thought that was a perfect use for the dragon, because it shows that, like, ice is evil, but so is fire. Both sides are evil and kill people, like, indiscriminately. And I think people wanted Dany to be the good guy so bad, and they wanted Cersei to be the Mad Queen, and I think we were looking at it the wrong way, and then, like, going back and rewatching the show, we'll be like, oh my god, we were wrong. Like, we were duped for the last 10 years, basically.
Yeah, really, it's like, everyone except for the Stark family, and maybe a handful of other people, are terrible, sucky people.
Yeah.
And even some of the Starks are not perfect human beings. They have their flaws.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, most of the people on this show suck.
Yeah, they're like horrible.
You wouldn't want to be their friend.
Yeah, in any other TV show, they would be the villain, but you just kind of have to pick. You're like, okay, who do I want to side with now? Mm-hmm. I guess they're the least shitty person. Like, whenever your favorite character dies, or after, like, the Red Wedding, or after, like Marjorie Tyrell died, or, like, Renly died in season, like, 2 or 3, you're like, oh shit, I have to pick a new guy, follow. Okay, I guess they're cool. And then you just kind of have to go through the list and be like, okay. And I think this episode did that in a really big way for everyone. And one thing that I read as a theory to why Daenerys went wild after the bells rang, like, because essentially it was a bloodless battle. Like, she just burned the entire walls down, let her army in, and they just stood there in a standstill in the streets. Just like, and the Lannister soldiers gave up. They put down their swords. Yep. And when the bells went off, I think Daenerys was like, this was too easy. I think that's what was probably going through her mind. She's like, she wanted fire and blood, but she didn't really get that. It was kind of like, oh, it's over? Like, that's it? And I think she wanted havoc. She went into the fight looking for havoc and didn't get any. And she's like, well, if I don't get any havoc, I gotta do something.
Yeah, she didn't expect Tyrion to be right as far as, like, you know, okay, let's give them a chance. Let's give them every chance they can to surrender. And I think she kind of just gave them that, like, okay, like, oh, let's throw your way. And she was thinking in the back of her head, it's never going to go like that. This is the Lannister army, you know? And this is King's Landing. And it did go like that. And she's like, no, fuck that. I want my, like you said, I want my fire. I want my blood. I want my vengeance.
Yeah, and, like, because Tyrion, like, knew. Like, Tyrion's really smart. He knew, like, they're going to give up. Like, if they know they're defeated, no one wants to get murdered. Like, they'd rather give up, surrender, and, like, have their queen taken, like, out. And they would expect the other army would be gracious. And they would, like, okay, we'll fight for you. We'll, like, give up our banner. Like, we will side with you or be prisoners of war or whatever instead of getting murdered. And that's what they did decide. And I think this episode really, the one character I think besides Daenerys that really instigated this was Grey Worm. If Grey Worm didn't do that, I think the raping and pillaging wouldn't have started.
It really was like a hive mind type of idea. Once he tossed his spear into that dude, the rest, like everybody except for Jon, was like, game on. This is our permission to go buck fucking wild on this city.
And with that, like, I did not think that would happen. I thought, like, maybe, like, when they saw the dragon, something else was going to go on, or, like, they would start, like, I have no idea what I thought was going to happen, because I'm like, I thought Daenerys was going to go straight to the Red Keep and destroy the castle, is what I was thinking, because when she started flying towards the castle, I was like, she's just going to fly straight over there, like, and then what's going to happen with Jaime and, like, Arya and everyone else? But then when Grey Worm threw that spear, I'm like, oh no. And there's a lot of those shots of the Lannister troops helping the civilians, and we're like, wait. The people we're following are the bad guys. Like, the Lannister troops are the good guys. They're just trying to help their, like, civilians. Like, we're just on one side of this coin, and I think that episode really, like, evened the playing fields on the moral compass, where it's like, holy shit. This is, like, the horror of war. It, like, will just turn people into this, like, monster.
yeah, this, our army of protagonists that were protagonists, for the longest time, they got the shit kicked out of them in the Long Night by the Army of the Dead. They finally got this moment of earned, well, maybe not even earned, success and victory.
Yeah.
They barely got out of Winterfell with their lives because of Arya pulling her awesome kung fu shit.
Mm-hmm.
But now they see, like, okay, we have the power now. And they went, and as soon as Grey Worm tossed his spear, they went power hungry and power mad, much like their queen. And they felt it was like, free reign to just start slitting throats. Unfortunately, raping and pillaging this entire city. And I can understand that result from this army, because it's like, hey, we got the power now. Like, what's going to stop us from doing what we want? It's not good. It's not what you want to see out of, like, especially, you could see it in John's reaction. You'd like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, this is not us. We are like the North. We're the good guys here. Why are you doing this?
Yeah. And that's like one of those shots in Jon's face where he's like, oh my. And I think him and Tyrion both have those shots of like, I think we just backed the wrong horse on this one. And they're both like, Jon had that look of, oh my God, my sisters were right. And like, that look of, oh my God, Varys was right, is literally what was going through his head. And Tyrion was like, oh my God, Varys was right. Oh my God, my sister was right. Like, was his thought is like, wait a second. The sister who I've always hated was 100% right. Like, and that's like kind of what everyone is going through. And when that started happening, she just started like cooking the city. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And our only true good people left that were in the middle of all of this, that experienced the horror of it. We got Jon, Arya, who survives miraculously, Tyrion, who was on the outside looking in, and Davos.
Yeah.
He made it out, and he's, they are all going to be the ones that return to, if they return to Winterfell. And they're going to be like, we need to do something. Yeah. Or at least Arya for sure. Because she's always been on the side of like, let's not trust this woman. Yeah. Davos, I think he's going to take a turn this is unacceptable. Yeah. Tyrion for sure. Jon may still be on the fence. Like, he knows in his heart that she needs to go. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I think he is so loyal. He's so true to what he bent the knee and declared her his queen. That's gonna tear him up. I think the one thing that will force Jon to switch is if she starts to fly a dragon towards Winterfell to get rid of. If I think she starts to buckle up on that dragon to go north, he's going to be like, nope, you're not hurting my castle or my family. I think that'll be the thing that gets him. Yeah, if it comes to the decision between Starks and Winterfell versus Dany, he's going to take his family. Yeah, and I think I hope it doesn't go to that direction, but I think that might be where it goes. But we also got the death of Euron, which I actually kind of liked. I like that, really shitty fight that they have in the mud, where it's and his final line is I'm the guy who killed Jaime Lannister, which is totally his character. He just got stabbed through his sternum and he's laughing. He's I killed Jaime Lannister, which in some ways he kind of did. He's the guy who put the final blows into Jaime. Those wounds would kill Jaime. If not at that moment, that he'd die from those wounds. Most likely, yeah. And that's to say, maybe we don't exactly know if Euron is dead. More than likely, he should be. Yeah. But we didn't get the shot of him actually life falling from his eyes. This was one of the disappointing parts of the show for me. I wanted Euron to go out at the hands of another Greyjoy. I did too. Obviously, it couldn't be Theon. He's been dead for a couple episodes now, but Yara is still there. I was hoping Yara would show up in this and then fight him. That's what I was hoping for, and that's the only death in this episode that I was a little disappointed by, is Yara not killing
Euron, because I think she deserves that one. She really deserves to give him his comeuppance.
Right. And this goes back to part of our conversation we had last week that unfortunately we didn't get to air because of the technical difficulties, but you told me how much the character of Euron is different from the book Euron, where he really gets his time in the sun as seeing he's a real bastard and like an evil dude. And in this one, or in the show, we really don't get a whole lot of time with Euron, and he's just more portrayed as like, a scoundrel.
Yeah. And I guess I'll go into it really quickly here. In the books, Euron also has long hair, like really long hair. He has one eye. He has this horn that people will think will bring down the wall. It's like the Horn of Winter or something. Or he's like getting the horn. His ship is called the Silence because he cuts all of his crew members' tongues out. And we see that in the show when Theon invades the ship. None of them are able to yell. They don't have tongues. That's why. And he does these rituals to the Drowned God, which is like a kraken that some people think might be real. And there's like things in the book that may hint to it actually being real, which is something they don't even touch in the show really. Like there's a few references to it, but Euron impregnates women, has them like pregnant, ties them to the front of his boat, cuts their tongues off, and lets them die as like a sacrifice to the Drowned God to make his ship invincible, and does all these horrible things. And he makes Joffrey look like a little saint, and he is a monster in the books. He is actually a monster, and he's horrifying. And the show version has pieces of that. Like there's things he says and things he does that you're like when he comes in for the first time, you see him on that ship, like in fire, like with the axe, just like swinging it around and being like ridiculous. And they're like, oh shit, they're going to do like him the right way. And when you see him for the first time on that bridge and he's like, oh, hello. And he like pushes his brother off and he just is like that. And they kind of nerf him a little bit, I think, because you can't have 30 villains at the same time. And I think that is why. But that is a really cool character in the books that we didn't really get to see enough of, and that's like kind of a bummer. But yeah, that is who he is in the books. He is way worse. And I hope that Yara or Theon in the books do kill him. And there's also more Greyjoys in the books that we don't even see. But yeah, the death of Jaime and Cersei, I loved it. I loved the death because it shows that Cersei's just a person. And sometimes death is inconsequential. Where people are like, she's going to go out. She goes out crying. She's like, I don't want to die. Which, she's a human. Like, of course she doesn't want to die. She's done horrible things, but she still has emotion. She's pregnant. She's a kid. She doesn't want to die. And Jaime's like, yeah, you've done horrible things for your kids, but they're the only people you really love. And me. And I do love that ending. And it's very poetic that they die together. The way they came into this world is the way they left it. And
do you feel like the Valancourt prophecy was fulfilled by them dying together?
I think, for those of you who don't know, there's a prophecy in the books and in the show that says Cersei's kids will all die and her little brother will kill her. And Valonqar is the Valyrian word for younger brother, which Jaime and Tyrion both are. So some people think Jaime's going to be the one to kill her. Some people think Tyrion is. And as we've talked about in the show, you shouldn't look at prophecies too much because they'll steer you the wrong way. And I think it does fulfill it because Jaime is the one who leads her into those crypts.
That, and even it could be Tyrion was the one that set up Jaime being able to get to them.
Yeah, so
get to her and leading her down to her death.
Yeah, because like if she listened to Qyburn, they would have gotten out there a lot faster, and they may not have left that way. So in a lot of ways, Jaime might be the reason she did die. Like if they just went a different way, or like went out into the courtyard and left just another way, or just didn't leave, they could have survived. Because there's people alive in King's Landing still. Most of them are dead, but there are people alive. But I do like that death. A lot of people didn't. I personally like it, and if you don't like it, that's fine. And then I think the big one that everyone's talking about is the Mountain versus the Hound.
Clegane Bowl.
Which I think Clegane Bowl, the way they staged that on those stairs was so cool. And we finally got to see what the mountain looks like without the armor on, which was a big thing. People are like, are we ever going to see what he zombified mountain looks like? And we did. And it's really gross, and it's really cool.
Looks like a big baby.
He does look like a big baby. He looks like a big baby with a bunch of rotted parts.
Right. I loved how this started, where, the Hound shows up. He's like, "Hey, motherfucker! Like, let's do this," and that automatically just sends the Mountain into a rage where he doesn't even listen to Cersei anymore. And Qyburn's like, "Hey, man, listen to your queen." Qyburn gets his fucking head smashed open.
Yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, because I was like, how are they going to get rid of Qyburn? I thought maybe the Hound was going to throw a knife at him and kill him, but the Mountain just splat. So good. And then
Cersei's like, I should get the hell out of here. And the Hound's like, yeah, I'm not here for you.
Yeah, and just like literally looks at her and looks at her. She walks away, and he's like, I don't care. Like, I literally do not care about you, because he used to work for her, so she knows who he is. And she's like, oh shit. Like, it's the look on her face when she sees him at the bottom of the stairs. And I thought that fight was so cool. And you just see how big Hafthor Bjornsson, the guy who plays the Mountain, is. He's like 7'6". And like Rory
McCann.
Yeah, Rory McCann, who if you've ever seen Hot Fuzz, is in Hot Fuzz.
Yarp.
He's the guy who's like Yarp. He's a big guy too. He's not nearly as big as Hafthor Bjornsson. Like, holy shit. And that
did the Hound's hair look different to you in this episode?
It did. It looked
like it had some highlights in it.
Yeah, it looked kind of blonde. I was wondering if maybe that's his real hair, like he grew his hair out for the show, and they did reshoots. I was wondering maybe there's like a reshoots thing they needed to do or something, or maybe he like shaved his head for another role and they had to give him a wig. Like, I was wondering, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe like for the show he actually had to grow his hair out, because a lot of the characters really did grow their hair out. And he probably was the same, and then at the end he shaved it and they're like, oh, we need you back for 5 more scenes. And they're like, we have to give you a wig and try to match it as good as possible. And I think that's probably what that was.
Right.
If I had to wage any sort of guess. But I thought that fight was so satisfying, where it was just like, he's like, why won't you die?
Yeah, it was brutal, like it should have been. Yeah, it was just straight, slashes, punches, just absolutely brutal. Like, we didn't expect them to have some sort of finesse sword fight or anything like that. No, it was just like, drive your sword through him, see that, oh, this doesn't do a damn thing. The Hound almost getting his head crushed, similar to, what's his face?
Oberyn Martell.
Oberyn Martell. Like, very close. I thought, like, oh man.
I was like I was watching.
And then catching a fucking dagger in the face. Yeah. And the way it all ends, incredibly poetic for the Hound, who has constantly been dreadfully afraid of fire, to just plummet with his brother into a fiery grave.
Yeah, and I thought that was really, really cool. You know what it reminded me of in Lord of the Rings, where Denethor jumps off the top of Minas Tirith on fire into the battle? It had that same kind of shot where they like follow him down, or follow the two down. I really liked that ending, and I thought it was cool that they go through the back of the wall, and like you see the dragon above them just like doing its own thing. And then at the same time as this, Arya is running for her life. And whoa, those shots. Like, there's a one shot.
Her doing everything she can to escape, at the same time trying to maybe save a few innocent lives, like especially the woman that saved her.
Yeah.
And all for naught, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I thought the show was going to do something with that. And then like they like are like, please get up, like, come on. And they're like, no. And she turns the corner and they just get torched. And you're like, there's like in Saving Private Ryan, there's scenes like that where it's like, get up, get up, get up. And they turn around and it just gets blown away. And you're like, oh my God. Like, it's so like visceral, because that's how it is. Like, if you're like kind of just a bystander, people are going to die. And
they're the collateral damage of this awful act of violence set forth by Dany And I think Arya's going to use, or she's going to use, like, her witnessing of this atrocity and these people burning alive. She's going to use that, and, like, that's going to motivate her to, you know, make her final meaningful kill.
Yeah.
Whether she actually, or she's going to want to try, whether she is the one that does it or not, and whether Danny actually does get killed. You know,
yeah,
we could get into one last curveball for the end of the show, and maybe Danny's the one that survives and is successful.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just going to be the Mad Queen from now on.
I think that would be kind of interesting to show, like, oh yeah, power will destroy you. And that's kind of the moral of this story is like, yeah, this Iron Throne thing is not good. Even Cersei has said that. She's like, yeah, this thing is, like, it's either you, like, it's like you live long enough to see yourself become the villain or die the hero. And when you, like, play the, like, Game of Thrones, you're gonna die or become the villain. And she knew it. And I love the scene between Arya and the Hound where she's like, Sandor, thank you. I thought that was really, really good.
It was. And you could see it in Sandor's eyes. He's like, you know, you have helped me grow as a person. Mm-hmm. I'm saving you one last time, saying, like, you're not coming up with me or else you will die.
Yeah, like...
So, you know, go live your life. Go do something else good.
Yeah, because Arya doesn't know that the mountain is a zombie monster. Like, she would have no idea. And I'm sure the Hound isn't like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm going to go kill my brother. Oh, he's also undead, and I don't think I'm going to make it out of that.
Yeah. Well, Sandor, he doesn't know, does he?
No, he doesn't. Like, when he sees him in the previous season, he's like, I'm coming for you, asshole. And he, like, recognizes something's up, but he doesn't realize he's dead.
Yeah.
Until this...
He just sees, like, those blood-red eyes. He's like, that's not right.
Yeah, and, like, in this one, when he stabs him, and there's, like, this shot of Rory McCann, and who's, like, when he stabs him in the stomach, he's like, what the hell? And that's why he keeps like, why won't you die? And like, they do it with the music. It's actually a really almost funny scene where he just keeps stabbing him. He's like, he just keeps trying. He's like, what is this? And it gets him right through the face. And the mountain's just like, nope. It's so good. And I think those are all the big deaths for this episode. And then the episode ends with Arya seeing just like a white horse walking through the streets. It's like all burned and bloody from, assuming maybe itself and a lot of the people who have burned around it. And she just gets on the horse and rides away. Like, out, presumably either out of the city or try to find Jon or try to find somebody. And
yeah, I've seen some theories about the white horse, that it's really similar to the one that Khal Drogo gives Dany on their wedding day in season 1, kind of representing a time back when Dany was more pure and innocent, or you know, a good person. And so, like, Arya might be taking that sort of that mantle and riding towards, like, okay, like, I need to be the hero here and take you down now.
Yeah, that's really interesting because she's seen all this horror of war. Like, I mean, yeah, she was a faceless person and she, like, did that for the House of the Undying and everything. Or the House of Black and White, rather. And, like, yeah, I think she saw it, but when she saw people get burned alive, she's like, I think it traumatized her. She's like, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And then we get the final, like, trailer for the final episode.
Yeah, surprise! It's very doesn't reveal a whole lot, which good.
Yeah,
like you really can't. Like, where do we go from here?
My thing is, I have a big feeling we're going to get a lot of Bran and a lot of flashbacks in this one. I just have a feeling about that because they have to do something with Bran. What if? So what we see in the trailer is, first, that scene of Dany in the House of the Undying where it's snowy in the room with the Iron Throne. That's ash. It's not snow, which is a big reveal that we're like, oh my god, we were wrong. Because we thought winter came to King's Landing. No. Dany came to King's Landing. And that, like, a lot of people after episode 3 were like, well, what about that vision where it's snowing in King's Landing? Like, that's all wrong. I think now everyone's eating their words, like, oh shit, we were wrong. And, like, we jumped to conclusions too quickly, which I love. I love that the show was able to do that.
Yeah. As far as Bran goes, like, with him being the three-eyed raven, all-seeing, all-knowing, all the time, I hope that the question gets brought up by Jon or someone that kind of understands Bran and what he is now. Like, you knew this was going to happen? Like, why didn't you say anything? Like, what's up here? Like, I hope that kind of gets brought up. If that is it to say, if any of the characters really do kind of understand Bran how we understand him as viewers of the show.
Yeah, I think that will get brought up, and I think maybe we'll get a little bit of, like, a Doctor Strange moment where he's like, if I told you, it wouldn't have worked. Like, I couldn't tell you. And he's like...
Yeah, or maybe something worse would have happened.
Yeah, he's like, if I told you, she would have killed us too. And I have a feeling it might be something like that. Or he's like, maybe I just couldn't have told you because I knew you wouldn't believe me. So I just had to keep my mouth shut. And, yeah, I think that, and then the scene with Daenerys walking out to, I'm assuming her army, or it's her army, or maybe a mixture of her army and the people who are left of King's Landing, and either making an address or something of, like, just, it's like gray and on fire still. That's a pretty haunting scene.
Right, like, we're going to get our first look at, Mad Queen off the dragon. Like, what do we have to see from her as far as being a ruler now? Because I think we can safely assume that there is no more Iron Throne.
Yeah.
It's probably been demolished under the rubble of the Red Keep. But, she's taking the role of ruler of the Seven Kingdoms now. So we're going to get to see our first look at, like, okay, how is she going to rule everyone? Is she going to kind of go back to her, hey, I'm going to be, this benevolent queen like I have been, freeing the slaves, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Or has she taken a full-ass turn and she's going to be like, anybody that's going to think about dissent, Drogon over here is going to eat you and shit you out.
Yeah. Like, I have a feeling maybe it'll be a little bit of both. Maybe she'll be like, I'm your nice queen, and, like, we'll be nice, but, like, you saw what he did.
Right. And it's got to make me believe that, like, or I hope that Jon is, like, after seeing what he's seen, he thinks back to, okay, who else has given Dany some lip? Oh, shit, Sansa has. I need to get my ass back to Winterfell and tell her, lay the fuck low, because she's coming for you. If she was willing to burn an entire city full of innocent men, women, and children, she's going to have no qualms about feeding you to a dragon.
Exactly. And I think, there's something there. And I think it would be interesting to see the final episode take place in the North instead of in King's Landing, if that's where all of it comes down. And I have a few fan theories. I think the final shots of the show, regardless of who sits on the throne, because I don't know if anyone can really predict that right now, the final shot of the show is either going to be something with a dragon egg. Like, there's going to be a new cycle if Drogon does die, which I don't think he will. I think Drogon actually is going to make it out. Because I can't see a real way of someone killing that dragon, because they don't have any of those left, and literally it's just people, which we've seen are not really a match for a dragon.
Maybe, yeah. It could be if Dany is brought down by someone. Yeah, like maybe Drogon mourns her loss and then just, flies away. Yeah. He's free now. He doesn't have a rider. He's just going to be a dragon out in the wild.
And we saw the shots of Drogon just flying around when Jorah and Tyrion were, like, in Valyria, like where the stone men were. We just saw the dragon fly around. So, like, they just do their own thing. If they don't have someone to take care of them, like, they just kind of eat and go, and they're just an animal. So, like, it's just like freeing a dog. Mm-hmm. Or like a horse or something. Like, bye.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see that, and I think maybe one of the final shots will be like someone opening their eyes and they'll be blue. Like a baby opens his eyes and they'll be blue. I just have a feeling Ice and Fire will be back. Like, it'll just, like, the final shot's going to be, like, eyes open and they're blue, just like when the Night King touched the baby. I just have a feeling we haven't seen the end of the Night King, or we haven't seen the end of White Walkers.
Yeah, who knows? They kind of did just end abruptly.
Yeah, so I think there has to be something where, like, there's going to be some sort of shot or some sort of, like, inkling towards, they're not gone. You just killed, like, maybe the leader, but maybe there's, like, those babies, maybe something else is up.
Or maybe Danny rides beyond the wall and finds more of the children of the forest, and they drive their dagger into her, and she becomes the new Night Queen.
Yeah, like, I have a feeling there's going to be something with Ice. Ice is going to be around. Because there's fire. We have to have Ice and Fire. Something's up. Something with a White Walker is going to be at the very end of the show, because George R. R. Martin has said the end will be bittersweet. And I think he said people will be satisfied with the ending, but not in the way they expect. And we only have a few more days until this is over, and then we have the Long Night prequel series. So, yeah, that was that's been Game of Thrones so far. In general, I mean, we'll talk about it next week when it's all over and our thoughts after this, but I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm satisfied. Obviously, yeah, we've discussed there's things I think I wish had gone a different way, but like I said, I'm not letting it ruin my enjoyment of the show. I'm excited to see how it ends. I'm excited to see where things will go after it ends. Like, you know, what do we have in store for our spinoffs? If we're going to get anything maybe more than just a prequel, maybe we're going to continue this story. Like, not with these characters, but something different. Who knows?
I would kind of like that, because I think this version of Westeros is kind of cool. Like, after all of everything's been kind of destroyed, where do people build, like, or even pick up 100 years from now? I think it'd be kind of cool. But yeah, that was our thoughts before the end. And after next week, we're like, well, all of our theories were 100% wrong, or all of our theories were right. But yeah, I'm happy that at least a few of my favorite characters have made it to the end. Davos has made it. I'm sad Varys didn't make it. I love Varys. I'm happy Tyrion has made it, at least to the last episode. Let's hope he's able to leave. Also, where's Bronn?
Yeah, I was about to ask, what's going on with what's going to happen with Bronn now that his payment source for possibly killing Tyrion and Jaime is now dead. Jaime is now dead. Really, the only thing he has left as far as making some money is Tyrion telling him, "Yeah, I'll double your payment if you don't kill me."
Yeah.
But what money does Tyrion have left?
Yeah, House
King's
Lannister.
Landing is gone.
Yeah, King's Landing is gone. And House Lannister is him.
Yeah, it is him. And the Iron Bank, you know, they're not going to lend to anybody anymore. They're probably going to be like closing up the vault and be like, okay, this world needs to get its shit together before we lend out another loan.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I hope they do tie up the Bronn thing. I have a feeling they will. I think that's a big enough plot point that people kind of forgot about after episode 1. And then last week they're like, oh shit, Bronn is still alive.
Yeah. And don't forget, Bronn has operated a Scorpion.
Yes, he has.
Thing before.
Will
he do it again? Maybe not. I doubt it. Like, we've seen that too many times. Like, I don't really think they're going to bring down Drogon that way if he's going to go down.
Yeah.
Something I did see, though, is, and I don't know how much credence to put into this, but Melisandre told Arya she's going to take down people with brown eyes, blue eyes, and green eyes. Walder Frey had brown eyes. Obviously, the Night King has blue eyes. Drogon has green eyes.
Ooh.
But I think I took that saying, or that kind of what she told Arya more as like, you're going to kill a lot of fucking people. Well, people of all stripes, you know. Yeah. But it's just something to note.
If she kills that dragon, that would be pretty crazy. Like, she killed Ice and Fire. Like, that would make her like that Azor Ahai character who's like one.
Maybe she is the prince that's promised, the princess.
Yeah, and I would love that because everyone's like, "Oh, it's John." What if it's Arya the entire time, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" And like you go back and watch it, or you go back and read it, and you're like, "Oh, it was her. We just weren't looking at the right person." I think that would be perfect. So
we were all just following our own sexist tendencies and thinking that John is going to be our hero of the story. When actually, no, it was this little fucking badass woman.
Yeah, and if that is how it plays out, and it kind of already has, I'm so happy with that. I love that Arya became like, I mean, she's always been a badass, but she has become like, holy shit, like she has become a force of nature.
Yeah, she literally saved the world.
Yeah. And after that, she could have been done. That could have been her arc. But no, there's more for her. And it makes me so happy. And I think there's more for Sansa. I think Sansa's good. I could see Sansa killing Daenerys. I could see that happening.
Maybe.
That would be one of those Sansa moments where you're like, okay, Sansa got her thing. Holy shit.
Maybe she saves Jon or saves Tyrion before Dany is able to strike them down or something.
I think that would be an interesting thing, and then that would be a good play for Sansa, and she would really get like a huge, huge moment. Not that she hasn't, but she would be able to show her power, and not just like be like another Littlefinger, but show that like that power of a Stark.
Maybe, or maybe Sansa gets killed.
I would, if she did, I'd be like, damn, she went out, but I wouldn't be like, I'd be like, okay, they just killed Sansa, and like. I, for a long time, thought Sansa was going to get killed in, like, so many different ways. But maybe it will be the last episode. And, yeah, I think Jon is safe. I don't think Jon's dying.
I don't know. It's really hard to say now at this point in this season. It's like, man, anybody really could go down. Especially with how it's turned, like, Dany going full Mad Queen. It's like, you know, who really is safe now?
Yeah, you're very right. I think the only way I could see Jon going out would be like one of those like murder-suicide things where he kills Dany and he knows that dragon's going to kill him. Like the dragon's just going to torch him. I could see that being the way he goes out. Like if that is how it is. But other than that, I don't know.
Oh, something I thought about... unanswered question. All the wildfire explosions that were going off in King's Landing, like, was that just a holdover from when Cersei was like setting up?
I think so. The
Winds of Winter.
Yeah.
Or was she preparing to bring it all down herself?
I think it might have been. Maybe the showrunners are going to answer that one. I have a feeling it could be some of it was left over, but maybe she was just planning on blowing the city up if they got through. And that was like an order she had for Qyburn. If they're like, they've breached, blow the city up.
Yeah. And is there any wildfire left? Does Tyrion know about this? Is that a way that they could possibly take down a big fucking dragon?
Yeah, it's wildfire. Because it's like also kind of magical in a weird way. Like it has like properties that aren't like normal fire. So I could see that because when those started going off and you saw the green explosions, you're like, oh yeah, there is that in King's Landing. And I feel like hopefully we may get another reference to that where it's like Tyrion's like, Jon, you know there's more of that, right? Like,
yeah, there was an entire underground bunker full of that shit.
Under this castle, like, light it up. Kill her and all the Unsullied. Because I feel like Grey Worm's going to have to die too. If
he has to. He's gone full, like, once Missandei was beheaded, there was no turning back for him. He would have taken down that city by himself if he could have.
I thought Jon was going to kill him in this episode. When he said stop and Grey Worm turned around, I thought Grey Worm and Jon were going to fight each other. That's what I thought. Might. Yeah. That could be the thing that kills Jon. That could be like a draw.
Right. He might, if he does end up killing Dany, he could do it after being mortally wounded by Grey Worm.
Yeah.
And then he kind of just like rides off to his death.
Yeah, I could see that because like Grey Worm's going to have to go.
Yeah, he's with Drogon, Grey Worm is like who's standing in between whoever wants to get to Dany.
Yeah. And maybe that's the worst advisor she could have right now. I used to be like, oh, Grey Worm's probably a voice of somewhat reason. No, he's lost
Not
that
anymore.
card. Yeah, I'm excited for next week. I think there was like a few weeks in there that I was like, I'm worried. But last week really reignited my excitement for Game of Thrones and the oh shit, anything can happen-ness with Game of Thrones. And this episode gets 5 Russells. That's my rating for this week, my arbitrary rating scale. But no, this episode was incredibly good. I'm very happy. And I feel like next week we may have to do like a live reaction with each other. I was thinking about maybe doing one and just recording the end, just like a live reaction of like, well, it's over. Just like head in hands. That's kind of how this one ended. It was just like, oh no, what did we all just watch? But yeah, so it was a good episode. Ben, do you have anything else? What's your recommendation for this week?
My default is always going to be Barry.
Mine is too.
But let's see. Do I have anything to suggest? Everyone should go see John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get the box office numbers up for that.
Oh yeah.
Because these are quality films, and we need the suits in Hollywood to see that people are coming out for quality films.
Yeah, and people like this kind of stuff. That's important.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, John Wick, Barry, and I'm also going to say read Watchmen.
Ah, yes, good call.
Read Watchmen. That's one of mine. And yeah, those are my recommendations. I'm signing off. Ben, close us out.
As always, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We hope to catch you next week when we all are crying into our hands because the show is over or something devastating has happened. And we may have someone special joining us for next week as well. This has been See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I am Ben. We'll see you next time.